Hello and welcome. My name's Annie and I'm going to be talking you through this session today on the topics of confidence and well-being. They're such crucial topics in so many different aspects of our lives. So we're going to start by exploring why that is. And if that is the case, how can we continue to learn and develop in these areas throughout our lifetimes? Really closely linked to the topic of confidence are the themes surrounding mental health and well-being. And so we're going to dig into this area a little bit more as well as we go through the session. And finally, we'll finish up by thinking about the difference between positive pressure and stress and how a little bit of pressure can be positive, whereas if we end up with too much pressure, too much of that, of those kind of negative influences, that can turn into stress, which can have a negative impact on our well-being as well as our confidence. So to kick us off, we want to start by thinking about actually what is confidence. If we're going to be talking about that in this recording, we need to understand what it means, what we mean by this. And I would say that confidence is not an innate sort of fixed characteristic. It's an ability that can be acquired and improved over time. So that's really important to remember. It's not about being able to do everything easily, but it's about overcoming barriers and getting through challenges, learning and moving forward because of these challenges. It's about action. Setting goals, taking steps to improve your confidence and develop. And it's also about self-awareness, self-awareness of our strengths, things we enjoy, the things that we're good at, and also our areas for development, being realistic about these and setting ourselves manageable steps to move forward. So as it says on the screen, confidence is a belief in oneself, a conviction that one has the ability to meet life's challenges and to succeed, and the willingness to act accordingly. Being confident requires a realistic sense of one's capabilities and feeling secure in that knowledge. So there's lots of different layers, different elements to this theme of confidence. But why is it that confidence is important? Why are we talking about it today? So firstly, we do all face difficulties and challenges. That's a fact of life. And so confidence is really important as it is a tool that we use to overcome these. This might be in the form of managing and negotiating disagreements or differences in opinion, or it might be about taking risks and putting ourselves out there to grasp opportunities for learning and development. Confidence is also a big part of how we are perceived by others. We are often drawn to people who appear to be more confident, which is a sort of piece of research that was published by the Journal of Psychology. It suggests that we like people we perceive to be confident more than people who don't. But note that this isn't necessarily people who are confident, but more about how we see them. So that's a kind of interesting thing to remember. Kind of fake it to make it type thing can be a first step in developing this area of confidence. But it's also an important trait for leaders and for team members alike. It enables others to have faith in our abilities, trust our judgment, and take our ideas seriously. If we have confidence in ourselves, or at least project it, then others will have confidence in us. But confidence isn't about pretending, although it can be one way of starting out. It's about leaning into vulnerability. Honesty is another really important part of developing and demonstrating confidence too. And in that sense, it can also be a helpful way to foster relationships, whether with peers on a course, colleagues in the workplace, friends, acquaintances, wider networks. So that's another really, really important aspect of it. And finally, one aspect of confidence is about believing that you have the right to be happy. And that's one of the ways that it links really nicely into the topic of well-being. And so we will touch on this as well throughout the session today. So how do we develop confidence? If it's so important, what can we do to help ourselves grow on this journey towards confidence? So this is the confidence onion, and it establishes 3 key ways that we can use to develop our confidence, and we're going to focus on them in this recording. So the first one is about self-awareness, acknowledging the emotions that we are feeling, feeling that fear when we're faced with challenges and situations that do challenge our confidence. And the next one is about exploration, practicing and leaning into those challenges when we do face them. And finally, support. We don't have to do all of this alone. Using our networks, using role models, friends, peers, tutors, we can find support, and this in turn can help us to boost our confidence in ourselves and help us to rely on ourselves and our own abilities in future. So first up, self-awareness. How self-confident are you? Confidence is important in many different aspects of life, and it can also vary in different parts of our life. It's complex and difficult to pin down. So as a start, it can be helpful to think through some of the different scenarios that challenge our confidence. And are there any scenarios where we do feel more confident, not just comfortable, but confident to take risks, confront challenges, make our voices heard? And when those situations come up where we don't feel so confident, it is worth stopping and acknowledging the feelings that we're experiencing, because that is a first step towards challenging them. So next, moving on to exploration. Confidence often comes from past experiences, and this means that it can be influenced by experiences we had in our childhood, past trauma, or the way that we've responded to situations previously. But it also means that we can cultivate confidence through thinking about our achievements and things that we have succeeded in previously. So what are you proud of? When we do confront our feelings, sometimes the first thoughts that emerge can be the negative ones. It can sometimes take a little bit more digging to find that spark of self-confidence that lies within us. So try asking yourself this question: what are you proud of? No matter how big or small, there will be something, whether it is watching this video today or getting up in the morning, getting onto your course at university, or submitting a particular assignment, or it could be something else entirely outside of the sphere of your education. But it is worth reflecting on this regularly to help us build our self-confidence. It may seem hard to start with, but eventually it will become more natural, and these will be the thoughts that persist over the negative ones. So how can you build this in to your lives, whether it's a short sort of daily, weekly, monthly, even a yearly kind of reflection of the things that you've done, the things that you've achieved, and the things that you're proud of, no matter what the scale. But that's just one way of thinking about exploration. There are 2 elements of it, and the second one is about future opportunities, grasping those as we move forward, not just looking back on the achievements that we already have. So one way to grasp those opportunities is to plan, and you can start with this question. My big career goal is, what is your big career goal? What do you want to achieve in 10, 20, 30 years' time? So once you've identified what that goal is, and do take a little bit of time to reflect and think about that, you then want to work backwards to break it into smaller, realistic and achievable chunks. This way, we can feel a sense of achievement and start to build our confidence as we move towards our larger goals and try out different things along the way. So a little bit of theory on this topic of goal setting. Just setting goals can actually be a big step towards achieving them. And this can come down to the reticular activating system, or RAS. It's one of the reasons why setting yourself goals can really work. So just a little bit of neuroscience to help you hack your own brain and change your mindset and achieve your goals. So the reticular activating system, RAS, is a bunch of nerves at our brainstem that filters out unnecessary information so that the important stuff gets through. The RAS is the reason when you learn a new word, you start hearing it everywhere, or you buy a new pair of trainers and suddenly everybody on the street is wearing them. It's not that really everybody is now wearing the same trainers as you, but your brain is filtering out to identify these ones that you have a connection with. It's also why you can tune out a crowd full of talking people in a bar, but immediately snap to attention when somebody says your name or even something that sounds like your name. So your RAS takes what you focus on and creates a filter for it. It then sifts through the data and presents only the pieces that are important to you. So all this happens without you noticing. The reticular activating system programs itself to work in your favour without you actively doing anything. This basically means that if you focus hard on your goals, your reticular activating system will focus on it too and reveal the people, information and opportunities that will help you achieve them. Of course, in reality, these things aren't as easy as they sound, but I do believe that our reticular activating system can be trained. It's about visualising what we want and achieving those minor goals and then letting our subconscious and our conscious work together to make it happen. So finally, in that 3-step confidence onion, support. You don't have to do this all on your own. Whether it's working with friends or peers to hold each other accountable to your goals, gaining feedback from each other, from your tutors, from the people that you're working alongside, talking through your ideas with lecturers, your careers team, mentors, looking at role models that you have and seeing how they got to where they are. Support is a really big part of building your own confidence. Bandura's theory talks about vicarious experiences and seeing others like you succeed. So key to this is building support networks, seeking mentors and learning from those around you. And this can be hard when you feel like you don't see people like you in the areas that you might want to go into. So one aspect of this is networking, of trying to identify those people. If those people aren't in those positions, can you find others like you who want to get there too, and help and support each other along that journey? Or find people who aren't in exactly the same area, but might be in similar adjacent fields, who can mentor you and support you along that journey as well. And we think about as well giving encouragement and support to each other, to our peers, and that's something that often comes naturally to us, but it's often easier to give that support or encouragement to others. So can we think about how we might move from that support, from that peer-to-peer encouragement, to how we might think about encouraging ourselves in the same way? So in the words of Michelle Obama, we need to do a better job of putting ourselves higher on our own to-do list. And this can start by working with others, and that will help us to build and develop our confidence and become more at ease with giving those words of encouragement, having that talk with ourselves directly. We spoke at the start of this recording about how confidence can boost your general happiness and well-being. So closely linked to that is taking care of your health and well-being to ensure that you have the ability to work on your confidence. But equally, it's about developing our confidence as a way to improve our mental health and well-being. So before I move on to share a few facts on this topic, I wanted to flag a couple of things. Firstly, I'm not a medical or a mental health professional. I'm coming at this from a workplace wellbeing context, but I know that this closely links to mental health, which is why I didn't think I could run this recording without mentioning this topic. So if this area of mental health and well-being is something that's difficult for you, feel free to pause the recording, take a break, come back when you feel ready, and hopefully it will give you something to think about moving forward in this area. So we spoke at the start about how confidence can boost your general happiness and well-being. So I'm going to talk you through some key mental health facts now. So first of all, as people, we all have mental health. We all sit somewhere on the spectrum of different kinds of mental health. We may not have a specific mental health condition or illness or diagnosis, but we all need to take care of our mental health alongside our general well-being. So if we are thinking about specific mental health conditions, these are also really common. It's estimated that 1 in 6 people in the past week experienced a common mental health problem. And that's a statistic from the Mental Health Foundation. And mental health conditions are also known to be the #1 cause of sickness absence from work in the UK. So they don't just affect certain types of people, although certain groups are more commonly diagnosed with mental illness. But it isn't a sign of weakness. They can affect any one of us. And mental health is something that does affect everybody. So this means that we all need to be looking out for each other and taking steps to look after ourselves too. And this includes seeking help from the correct places when we need it. So whether it's friends and peers, whether it's a service at your university, or working with your GP or other local services. But there are certain points in our lives that really can be particular triggers for our mental health, where we can struggle in that area. We all adopt habits that help us through our days. They allow us to expend less brain power on the routines of our day so that we have more energy for the novelties that life throws our way. It's a powerful adaptation that provides a level of comfort as our brains sort of go on autopilot. However, when these routines get disrupted, our brains are forced to fully engage in order to ensure that our needs continue to be met. So this is called cognitive loading. And this can cause stress to our systems as we're forced to find a new normal in the face of these changes. Change impacts how we view the world, how we view ourselves, and it challenges us in ways that shift our worldview. And as our circumstances shift, so does our brain. The neural pathways that are built during big life transitions can be really difficult at the time, but they provide opportunities to develop new insights about the self. Whether the transition is positive or a challenge to overcome, we might be faced with a need to reevaluate how we define ourselves. In a career transition, whether it's starting a new role, starting work at a new company, or switching career trajectory, you may be faced to redefine how you view yourself in relation to work. Or moving from university into the workplace, we are faced with leaving education that we may have been in for a long time. So again, we may need to think about redefining how we view ourselves in relation to what it is we do. So key transitions like this can mean loss or change of social familiar networks. Different kinds of support networks need to be developed around those. Having purpose, meaning, a clear trajectory can all help us with this. But remember, you are not alone. So many people are going through these similar kinds of experiences. And do reach out, do find the support, as I said, from your university services, from your GP, from other local services, in order to make sure that you do find the support you need when you are going through significant life changes that can be a particular challenge to our mental health. And finally, this comes from some NHS research that shows that giving to others, physical activity and self-development activities have been proven to have positive mental health benefits. So these link closely to the ways of developing confidence that we've already discussed. Giving encouragement, support to others can help us to be able to give that back to ourselves and reflect on what we have achieved and what we have what we do have to be proud of. And equally, self-development activities, grasping those opportunities, can help us to explore and develop and build our confidence. But as a note, we are not saying that these 3 areas will solve mental illnesses. These are things that we can do, tools that we can use to help improve our mental health. But that may come alongside seeking support like therapy, going to your GP, or self-referring to mental health services. That is really important too. We work really closely with Student Minds, who run peer support groups at universities, and they also have lots of resources on their website available to you as well. And there's other organisations that you can go to for advice and support. So these are some tools that you can use, but they are by no means the only way or the kind of solution to any difficulty that you may be facing. So, as I've said, we've shared with you a few facts around mental health, but that said, we're not mental health professionals and not qualified to give mental health advice. So please do speak to your GP or a local charity like Mind, or a qualified professional if you are worried about your mental health. What we can talk about, however, is something else that is important to all of us. It's closely related, but it is distinct from mental health, and that is well-being. So this model, the 5 ways to wellbeing, was developed by the New Economics Foundation, and it's used by Mind and the NHS and other UK organisations. So there are these 5 areas, thinking about connecting, being active, taking notice, learning, and giving. So you may want to take a little bit of time to think about how you can implement these areas in your daily life. Or perhaps you already do, in which case think about point 3, taking notice, remembering the simple things, the things that you are already doing, that you already have to be proud of, that can give you that joy. So the final section of this recording today is about the difference between pressure versus stress. So you may understand these words in a very similar way, or you may already see a distinction between them. But for some people, it's important to put ourselves under some pressure in order to stimulate creativity. We perform and respond to pressure well. Whereas some people hit peak performance when we have a little bit more time and a little less pressure and are able to structure our own time more easily. So for different people, you can apply different pressure, or we can handle different pressure to different people, and it will have completely different results. Exactly the same amount of pressure will be internalised and reacted to by different people in different ways. However, stress is your personal response to pressure. It's typically an emotional and internal response, whereas pressure is usually more external, although you can create it for yourself. Whereas pressure can have positive benefits, stress tends to be much less healthy. So how can you think about managing the symptoms of stress? Because if you're stressed, you're not going to be performing at your peak, and your mental health and your well-being are going to potentially take a hit. Stress usually means that you make bad decisions, experiencing confusion and a lack of clarity, whereas pressure can help you to clarify and work out your priorities. So often people wrongly assume that people respond the same way to pressure, but that's just not true. So recognising your own responses to both pressure and stress, how you create them, how you articulate them to others, and how you can manage them will help you to be more effective in your work and boost your wellness generally. Saying you're stressed when you're just busy won't help you to maintain control and manage your self-talk, so try not to use this language interchangeably. But back to pressure. A little bit of pressure is usually required for us to be able to perform at our best. But too much or too little can be bad for our performance and our personal development. We want to be somewhere in this middle zone where we have a decent level of pressure, stimulation levels, so that we're able to remain focused and engaged and perform to our best abilities. Whereas if we don't have enough pressure, we're more likely to be bored, listless, tired, and too much, that tips over into a stress response where our performance decreases along with things like our well-being. Ultimately, though, there is no point comparing yourself to others. We all experience things differently. So it comes back to that self-awareness that we looked at the beginning. We all have different trigger points, preferred ways of working, and tolerance levels, and becoming more adept at handling or eliciting positive pressure and managing your internal stress levels and response is a very personal process, one where you need to become more aware of yourself, your needs, your trigger points. You need to start to notice those moments where you really perform at your best or where you are subpar. What can you notice about yourself, your sort of physical and emotional state and your surroundings when you are at your best and when you are at your worst? Are there changes that you see in that physical or emotional state, and can you identify where they're coming from? You might want to think about your environment and your workspace. Are you keeping on top of the basics? What kind of situations are you in when you feel you are performing at your best? And what situations are you in when you find things are not helping you so much? So once you've looked out for some of these kind of indicators and pointers, there are steps that you can take to help you work and develop in order to impact this stress response and maybe stay on that positive pressure side rather than tipping over into that stress. So some steps that you can take. Are you getting everything you need? Those basic requirements for survival and thriving. Are you drinking enough, eating enough? Are you getting the right amount of sleep? Are you waking up feeling refreshed? Have you got fresh air? Are you taking enough time off? Are you getting some social interaction and some physical exercise as well? All of these things are just as important, well, more important than other things in our lives. So if these are missing, then we do need to reevaluate how we can make time to bring these back in. Otherwise, everything else in our life is going to suffer. Can you consider your working hours? Are you working a reasonable amount? If not, are you able to say no, delegate, or ask for help? Because again, remember, you don't have to do everything on your own. If you are struggling with these things, talking to a friend or a professional can help you to perhaps reevaluate and work out how you can make time for these crucial elements of existence that will help us to be able to give that time to other areas of our lives and help us thrive and flourish and think about things like our confidence and developing that in future. We will all struggle with these things at different points in our lives, but it's about how we manage them, how we respond to those challenges. Confidence and well-being and mental health are a lifelong project. We all go through times when we struggle with all of these things, and that's okay. It's normal. It's normal not to be okay. But we don't know which of those experiences are going to be important to us. Those times when we are struggling might help us grow when we look back. And that's not to diminish the difficulties that we're facing at the time, but it's about thinking about that response so that we are able to seek the correct help that we need to get through those situations. The good news is, as we work on and develop our confidence, each step we take is a big part of our journey of moving forward with these things. And hopefully this video can be a small part of your journey too. So thank you so much for watching today. I hope you found something helpful to take away with you as you continue on your lifelong journey of confidence and well-being. So I wish you the best of luck and goodbye.